Are you losing interest in everything? If so, then you could be undergoing something of a spontaneous spiritual awakening, which is becoming increasingly more common for the global paradigm shift that we are experiencing. And this phrase, losing interest in everything, is something that's starting to bubble up in the collective consciousness to try to summarize or express that many people are undergoing something of a crisis where they're starting to understand that their old life is no longer working for them. If you're going through this process, it may look like depression, or other people may say to you, oh, you're simply depressed. This would be actually something more simpler to experience, diagnose, and possibly treat in terms of managing your emotions, your state of mind, and your overall mental health. But a spiritual crisis is something completely different, because it's an indication that your values, your inner purpose, your meaning in life, your sense of alignment, and even your identity is starting to shift completely from being more personality based, which this is where the word persona comes from, and persona means mask in Latin, to moving to a more soul-orientated life. Now, in the early stages of this can be extremely confronting and definitely confusing, and nothing seems to make sense. The old hobbies that you used to enjoy don't make sense. Your friendships seem to grow apart or grow cold or grow distant. There's an overall disconnect. Even intimate relationships can feel like all of a sudden you're in a relationship with a stranger. Your work can start to feel empty and meaningless. And overall, you start to feel basically that your life no longer works for you. Well, these are all the classic signs of moving from this persona, this mask, this externally orientated life to something that is more soul orientated, that gives a deeper sense of true alignment, true fulfillment, and true meaning. Now, many people would simply summarize this as being something of a midlife crisis, which would be, or previously would have been, something of a common explanation for what someone's experiencing, the classic textbook midlife crisis. But this is something different, because it can actually affect you at any age. I know that I went through it in the 90s when I was in my 20s. And basically what I started to realize is that old experiences, whether it was traveling or, going to all those youthful type experiences that you have when you're younger, started to feel very empty and meaningless to me. And I really wasn't able to integrate that into any new belief system until I sort of stumbled on unwittingly onto the spiritual path. And so if this is what you're going through, I completely understand. So if you'd like to know more about this, then sign up for my free webinar at my website, which I'll put a link to. I'll be offering a free webinar on how to integrate this, because many people are starting to experience this. They're feeling very isolated, feeling very disillusioned with the world and disenchanted. Many people are experiencing that they don't even want to leave their home anymore. They're very happy on their own. They're feeling more self-contained, and a sense of alignment from what they used to do or enjoy or experience is shifting very rapidly now. Some of these experiences used to take years and years to sort of start to become more conscious of what this is occurring. And now, even in a few weeks and months, people are starting to realize that, hang on, my old life isn't working for me anymore. And this, in terms of Jungian psychology, would be part of the individuation process of basically becoming more whole, more complete, more accepting of the different facets of your being, and ultimately, at least to a degree, integrating the conscious and the unconscious mind. And this is a huge quantum leap on the spiritual journey, but basically what most people are going through is simply the beginning of that. So if you're searching for something where you feel like you're wanting a more purpose in your life, more deeper alignment, and more soul-orientated fulfillment, then this is obviously what can transpire when you start to become more spiritually orientated. Now, ultimately, these are just words, but what needs to be done is to go within and listen to this inner voice for this inner guidance. I used to run a silent retreat at Easter for 18 years, and people would come and really struggle for the first day, maybe 2 days, depending on how they were in their life beforehand. But it's because in our modern world, it's so performative, that we're so externally orientated, that we're actually encouraged at a subtle level never to go within, never to discover what's within us, never to integrate different aspects of our being, simply to numb out, to check out, more simply just to avoid our inner world, our inner reality, which doesn't actually help us be any more happy, any more balanced, any more harmonious as we move through the different stages of life. So what I did find is from this stillness, this silence, is that people would basically come out the other side of it, would be much more connected to themselves, much more integrated and much more accepting of the different facets of our being and how to work with these limitations, these so-called negative aspects of who we are, or more simply the shadow and different components that make us whole, that make us complete, that give ourselves permission to understand ourselves at a deeper level. So this is basically the experience of a more authentic life. And, you know, we can use these kind of guidepost phrases such as spiritual path or spiritual journey or spiritual evolution to give us a sort of sense of the reality or the integration that we're looking for. But it's basically just being in a state of a deeper fulfillment. And this can happen at the moment, is happening a lot with people's lifestyle. People are starting to move away from the cities, for example. Not everyone. It doesn't mean you have to sell your house and move into the countryside and go off grid or change your career or anything like that specifically. But only you will know what will make yourself more to be of service. For example, many people wake up and they realize they're in a career that's very, very egotistical, very much serving the ego, and they want to do something that's more of being service to community, to society, to humanity as a whole. And some of these ideas are effects of the actual spiritual awakening. So this crisis is an effect. It's like a calling from the soul. It's a higher calling that's demanding a different version of you. And if you're going through this, I completely understand, because it can literally turn your life upside down and start making you ask questions that you'd never really considered or thought about before. Because the way our society is structured is completely to avoid all that. That we're basically like in this idea of being externalized, seeking external validation, status orientated, success orientated. That's all very externalized. Whereas this process actually invites us. It's an invitation that not everyone will accept or even want to understand or experience, to actually go within and understand ourselves in a way that we perhaps had not thought about before. If you want to call that spirituality or a spiritual path, that's up to you. But what I'm referring to is not just personal development. It's much, much more than personal development. It's actually backtracking before the process of incarnation occurred, and it's starting to ask the question of, why am I here? Because if we don't know what the answer to that question is, if we don't understand what our soul journey is in this lifetime, what we've come to experience, what we've come to understand, what we've come to learn, we're always going to be unfulfilled. And that is the effect that you see everywhere around the world of the focus on the external validation, the external success, the badges of success, you know, the right postcode, the right car, the right occupation. And meanwhile, people are remaining unhappy and unfulfilled. And when you have eyes to see this, it becomes very obvious that people are compensating with this idea of external success, while inside their soul is remaining withered and dry, and basically there's a huge disconnect. So this question, some of these powerful questions are, what is it I truly want to experience in life? What do I desire to get out of life? But it's not just from a desire point of view, like an egotistical point of view. It's coming from a much deeper place. Our finite time on this planet can be experienced in a multitude of ways, but if we don't know why we're here, what we came to experience, why we incarnated, then there'll always be a sense of meaningless. This dystopian reality that's unfolding, particularly in the West now, is an effect of this. And here in Australia, our use of antidepressants as an actual medication is one of the highest in the world. And yet we're supposed to be known as the lucky country. So there's a disconnect between what people are experiencing, how people may look and how they may dress and how they may appear to experience their life, and what's going on in their inner reality. It can be two different things. So really, this invitation, if this is meaning something to you and you are going through this, then there is so many more tools, techniques, advice, and access to information to help accelerate this process now than what there was, at least when I went through it. And coming out the other side, it's really very obvious that many people now, particularly in the West, are having a very, very profound existential crisis. And it's not something that's like a kind of first world problem or navel gazing or just brush it aside as someone going through something. People are actually now starting to ask for more out of life, but not necessarily more consumption, more trinkets, more badges of success, but a deeper quest for more meaning, more purpose, more fulfillment, more joy, more compassion, more positive effect on the community. And that this is a transformation of your consciousness. And if you are already starting to experience this, this is the seeds starting to sprout already, because otherwise you'd just be completely hypnotized with this consumer culture at the shopping center and just doing all these sort of low-level desires. And not there's anything necessarily wrong with them, but there's just so much more to experience, a richer, more profound, deeper experience of life itself.